Hello everybody and welcome to the universe. My name is of course Dino and I'm joined by the ever so lovely Goldberg. Goldberg, welcome to our first ever podcast. I don't know about you, but for me it's kind of, how do you say this? It's sweet irony that we started off thinking about how are we going to do ERL content with a podcast, and now at the end of the season, at the end of the year, we're actually here doing a podcast.
I mean, finally. And you know what? I'm feeling a little nervous. You know, I've been on the LPL, the LEC, but nothing tops this right now. So we're getting into all the teams and all the info that you guys out there need to get prepared for this European Masters.
So yeah, it's our first podcast, as I've just said. So bear with us. We're gonna try to make it as smooth as possible. We have guests rotating in and out. We have LAURE from the LFL. We have MAGVAYER for the Ultraliga. We have Noah showing up for the LVP for Spain, and then we have at the end we have BLACKGATOR for the Primeleague. So we're doing our best to have everything smoothly. If you're watching on Twitch, that's the right place to be to watch it live. We will push the VOD on YouTube as well afterwards. And the idea is just to get you up to date, as we have been doing with our YouTube channel. So if you don't know what we're talking about, just go check it out on YouTube. You can find us there as EUniverse as well. The idea is that we will go over the last split of EU Masters very quickly, and then we will get into this split, because summer always promises a lot of great plays, a lot of great new players to burst up on the scene, and we just can't wait to get you through the groups. And on that note, last split of EU Masters, I don't know for you, Goldberg, but I think for you it might have been the height up until now as an NLC caster as well, to see BTXL go all the way, and then actually, sadly, maybe losing against Carmine Corp there in the finals. But for me, it looked like the strongest spring EU Masters I can remember actually in recent history.
Definitely one of them, and I think also at the same time one of the most successful ones, where Carmine Corp not only obviously just being one of the best team we finally got at that tournament, but also the viewership we got from the French scene, all the passion we finally got for a second division league, at least second division next to the LEC, right? In our ERLs. And I think it was a quite successful one. If you take a look at players as well, Marcoon, Atvi, and Adam, all players that had LEC appearances, even 2 hours, who came from one of the minor regions as well, then got onto SK Prime Academy afterwards as well. So I think last split in general, just had a lot of success stories for a lot of players.
It already feels a bit like a long time, but it's not a year. And that the thing with this spring EU Masters and why we're talking about it, it's always hard to set expectations for summer, because ERLs, they go off and they do their own thing in their own country, and then they come to face each other again, and it's really hard to say who's the clear favorite. But I think last spring we finally had a clear favorite at the beginning in Carmine, where a lot of pro teams also hinted to them like, okay, this team is actually insane. They beat us in scrims. And then in the end, with the blue wall behind them of France, they actually managed to win out. So in that regard, it was a good spring. And at the same time, I do think that a lot of these players got a fast chance to go to LEC and prove that the level might be rising, that the level might be at that point that you can just take a support and a jungler in Marcoon and Advien from ERL roster, put them in the LEC, and the first games will look insane. So I think the stakes for this summer, for this EU Masters, have never been higher. And I'm wondering if we're looking at the play-ins that already happened, of course, because we're going to the main stage. Is there any teams that pop into mind? Is there any teams that you saw in play-ins that you're like, okay, this is actually also a strong team. This will make the main stage stronger going forward in the actual circuit?
I mean, you take a look at play-ins at this time around, and I feel like every team that got through the qualifications are from a better region. We talk a lot about seeding, especially of Group D in play-ins as well, with Vitality being put together with Mouse and Rogue, which is, by its own right, could have been a group at the European Masters main stage, which is why it's so as bad as that seeding was for that group, I think depending on the qualifiers, we did get a lot of good teams out. I think in terms of Mouse, Go Rogue, Movistar Riders, and Fnatic Rising, coming from all these major regions, I think they're all strong play-in seeds coming through the play-ins this time around, where last time it could feel like we had 2 minor regions in play-ins, and then you could have had Mouse versus a Rogue. That wasn't the scenario, that was just an example, but at least this time around, the qualified teams does feel more deserving.
And I think because it's something that came to mind when I was looking at so you have the major ERLs, right? So we have the top 4 there in Primeleague, in LVP, in Ultraliga, and then you have the LFL. Those third seeds, they go to the play-ins, but I have a feeling those third seeds, and we're going to talk more in depth about the groups later, that they were actually also kind of favorites in their own regard in the season. So they went to play-ins, and I have a feeling that getting one of the play-ins teams in your group is actually not a blessing at this time. It's actually pretty much a curse, because you get these really strong teams, also Fnatic Rising, that just move up and that take the fourth slot in your group, and that might just actually win the group. We're going to go more in depth there, but if you're looking at the names, you have Fnatic Rising, you have Ego Rogue, you have Mouse Sports, and then from the LVP at Movistar Riders, who had an amazing season. Is the level of this EU Masters, is it the most stacked EU Masters in summer we've ever seen? Because for me, it sure feels this way.
I mean, on an average, I would agree with you as well. And as you just explained yourself, with the play-ins teams as well, just coming into this one. I will say, though, there are some regions where, I will get more in depth with this as well the later we go on to the show, that has not showed up, not last spring. And I don't think they'll show up to the same regard this time around as well. I go rogue maybe, but we'll have a look at that later as well. But I definitely feel like all the play-ins team coming into a group this time around, and the average level of play definitely is one of the strongest splits, if not the strongest split we've ever had, going over an average level of play.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll have MAGVAYER on to defend the Polish honor, because yeah, as you rightfully said, sadly in spring they didn't even get out of group, so maybe they're not the strongest region to look at anymore, and maybe we're looking at other people or other regions. In that regard, I wanted to quickly brush up on our knowledge. We're talking about the groups later of the teams, and I'm just gonna ask you flat out. We're gonna name some top dogs, some underdogs, and a dark horse. So 2 top dogs, 2 underdogs, and a dark horse. We're gonna put it out there. It's of course a hard analysis to do, because we've never seen some of these teams actually play on the international level until now. And then during the course of all the guests coming around and during this podcast, at the end I will ask again, like, did our analysis change? Did our teams change? So let's start with the top dogs. Like, who are your clear favorites maybe to make the finals? Maybe not win everything, but at least make a deep run and make finals.
I hate to do this, but it is just the 2 LFL teams with Misfits and Karma and Corp. I like it. I think it's quite clear that the LFL is still at a very strong level of play right now, and Karma Corp obviously putting Adam to Fnatic last split, now coming in with Capuchard instead. I don't necessarily feel like that's a downgrade. And then obviously Misfits, I think they have a lot of prodigies that could already be playing in the LEC as well, at the level of play that they have consistently displayed as well. So I definitely think that those 2 teams are my top dogs for going to the finals.
I think you're right. They should be, and it always has been like this, that the team that won the spring split or the summer split might be favorite at ERL. And definitely if we go deeper onto Misfits, they actually made quarterfinals, didn't change anything about the roster, and then made the finals and actually won this time instead of getting second over Carmine. So if we just take Carmine with the change of Cabochard as, okay, it should be the same level, then Misfits actually became better in summer, so they might actually be stronger. And I think maybe a little bit sad for you and the NLC, BTXL, moving those 2 players up and actually not making it might have made the NLC weaker, which was a finals team. That's still something you guys got done. But okay, so before we lock it in, we're also looking at LVP. We're also looking at Primeleague. Maybe not Ultraliga because they didn't make it out. You still have Vodafone Giants, and I mean, if you just look at the name list, it's pretty insane. So why would you put an LFL team over a team that has Kasing, that has Attila on the roster?
I feel like we've seen these guys in ERL for a long time right now, and while there are names with impact in general, I think to me it's also just LVP as a region hasn't really shown up for a long time. Like, they used to be the region that you thought about when you thought about European Masters, and then in recent ages it just has been like that. It's been Ultraliga and it's been the LFL that you've really been thinking about. So I'm actually having them as like a dark horse coming into it, or at least like something that we I guess dark horse is a very strong word for a team like this, because they are extremely good. But this team is definitely one team where I go like, okay, they don't have the highest expectations. I mean, they probably have the 3rd highest expectations. I'm not gonna lie, they're a top team as well.
So I didn't clearly specify the rules, so let's brush up on it now. Okay. Now, the dark horse is really a team that might make a deep run, but we don't really expect them like semifinals,
Okay,
right? So Topdogs is finals, Underdogs is semifinals, and I think as you were saying right now, you would put Giants there. I think it's a fair assessment, actually. It feels weird to just put two LFL teams on top, but our next guest, Laure, will probably applaud us for this anyway. So if Giants is the one underdog, I think, in my opinion, it becomes really hard for the second. Looking at Primeleague, they've always done good. They've always at least made quarters. But it's really hard to say who's the favorite, because you had Big, who had an amazing playoffs run. They had to change some parts of their roster after roster moves. Maybe a shaky season, had an amazing playoff run. Then you had Mouse Sports, who also has like names where your jaw just drops to the floor. I mean, you have Chocolate in the mid lane. You have a personal favorite of mine, Pride Stalker, in the jungle that plays that jungle as well. So they were second. They were kind of favorite. And then the other seed that the Primeleague is sending is Penta, of which you don't really know that much, because it's a rather new organization, rather young German players. So who do we give the second underdog seed to? Does it go to another LVP team?
I could definitely give it to Movistar. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah?
I think Movistar from the regular split they had looked very strong and very scary. And I think they fell flat a bit. I don't know if it was just an off day or anything like that. But when Movistar started in playoffs, like a lot of analysts from Spain as well had a lot of expectations for this team. I think it was only one of them that predicted that I think, who were they playing? Votive. I think they were actually playing Giants as well. That they got
knocked out by the Giants.
Exactly.
And they chose Giants because it's the way the bracket works. You have the single elimination and you have the reseeding, where the first seed can choose. A little like they do in the LEC at the beginning, and they chose Giants, and sadly they didn't make it. I don't know, because I also want to. So I want to give two shout outs here. I'm from the Benelux, for people that don't know. So first, UCAM, they did a deep run. They went to semis. They had a shaky season, but after sadly having to swap out Plasma for health issues, they finally found their groove with the new support Hantera there, also a French player, very young guy, and they came second, which was good. They actually made the run happen in playoffs. And then the second shout out is to my boys from the Dutch league, MCON, that exposed the fact that a Dutch league team can get their Urgot 11-3 against the Riders in the top lane if you just attack their early game and attack MaxLAURE in the jungle. So it's a tough one to call for me, because I've seen that game from the sidelines, and I was like, okay, wait, this shouldn't really happen, even though we have the amazing guy Sus Perfect in mid lane. You have Noodle, who was playing his first jungle season ever. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready to give it to Movistar, because I'm also maybe expecting Big to do a deep run.
I've been let down by Primeleague team too often, just going to the quarterfinals, and that's kind of where it goes. And I know that every year it's a new season, but the big players do still have a lot of their roster from last spring as well.
Yeah.
Coming into this one. So I mean, it's definitely, as we already talked about, one of the closer ones, and I don't think you can definitively put one and say this is 100% correct, because it just won't be.
Yeah, it will never be, probably. And then the thing is, we have an entire podcast to actually hear what the other people from their region have to say and change. So let's just put the Movistars there right now. So if two LFL seeds in first, basically in Topdogs and Underdogs, right underneath we have the two LVP representatives in Giants and Movistar, leaving out a second seed, which kind of hurts me.
It feels weird to say underdog. It doesn't really do it justice.
It doesn't do it justice. They're
just contenders. Well,
okay. We're changing it to contenders, and then we'll go to Dark Horse. This one is the toughest one. So I knew I was going to pose you this question, so I was thinking about it myself. Are there any underdogs left? Because last EU Masters in Spring Split, we had Symes, Sup and Makers making it out of groups. But if you look at the groups now, for something like that to happen, top teams need to fall apart, basically. So
I could definitely see it in Group B. I'm not gonna lie. Okay. I think like if someone's making it out of Group B, it could be tricked in a good day in one of these best of ones coming up against each other.
Okay.
I think Penta probably do not have. I mean, they've had a really good split, but they also got 3-0 in the finals, and I don't think they got the full extent of playoffs that they would have wanted in terms of experience due to the German scene, where if you place first, you're just directly in the finals. You don't really play all the other playoffs games, which Big had the pleasure of doing. So I think Group B is definitely one of the more indecisive ones, especially in terms of consistency as well. So if someone were to upset it, I'd go for Group B.
I mean, okay. So we're going for the NLC here. We're going for Denmark here, and we're going for Trick on full buys. I mean, that's what we can do here, and I think you're actually right. Group B might not be the strongest group if you look over to what names are in the other groups. So in that regard, I followed Tricked a bit. They did a very good playoffs run. They also came first out of their group in the NLC. So in that regard, they are consistent enough to maybe clutch it out in the best of one. So I'm actually fine with. It's weird to say. It's not just because you're here, but I'm fine to put them on the dark horse list and see them go to quarters. And that means that we made you happy, but we also hopefully made our first guest happy, because we have Laure at the ready to talk with us about Group A. And that's the amazing magic of having a producer that, out of the kindness of his heart, actually
transitions.
Helps us. And there we have transitions.
Hello.
And there we have Laure. Welcome. First off, for everyone, I don't think I need to introduce you for people that follow LEC or European League of Legends watching. I think you're the most outspoken. How do you say this? You're probably the figure person for French League of Legends by now. You're probably the front runner. And I think it's amazing that you took time out of your day right before the LEC final week to talk about EU Masters. That just speaks to how passionate you are about it. And because you're probably focused on the LEC finals, let's just move past that. How excited are you to finally drop all the analysis and to show your full bias and to cheer apparently 2 LFL seeds to the finals?
I'm super hyped, and first of all, thank you so much for the invite. Always feels good to be asked to talk about my teams, because I mean, we saw some players went from the EU Masters to the LEC this year, and it's always a pleasure to present these players to a wider audience. And I'm super hyped about the EU Masters, but actually I'm worried because I remember that the French team in football was one of the favorites at the Euro tournament earlier this summer, and we know how this one ended. So there's actually a huge pressure on us right now to be successful at the EU Masters once again. We'll see how it goes.
So it's already at the level after last split that football and League of Legends go hand in hand, and that the expectations are as high for both, which is impressive. Let's get into the first group then, Group A, because that's what we're here for. So the Group A, we have Misfits from Europe as a sort of first seed. Of course, they come from the LFL. They went first there. Then we have EUM. There's the second seed from Spain. We have a lower tier ERL seed there in Anarthostis Famagusta, and I hope I said that name right. It's apparently a very famous football club from Cyprus. And then we have from Plains, which is a little bit insane to say, we have Ego Rogue, if you look at the history they've had on the EU Masters. And then let's dive straight into it. First thoughts about this group. For me, it looks like one of the strongest. I know we had a debate, Goldberg, that it's either this one or Group D, and probably Group D.
It's
but
not this one.
Yeah, it's not this one. Okay, so it's not this one, but this might be the second strongest group we have.
Do you think it is because of, I mean, we saw EUM in spring and how impressive they were, and I was listening to you to talk about underdogs and dark horses, and I'm actually really looking forward to seeing how much they improved from spring to summer. It's a team that I really like, and I love Rafita as an AD carry. I know he was like shining a lot in spring. I like the fact that they picked up Huntera from spring to summer, which is a player that I appreciate a lot. And we'll see how it goes from them. But this group looks to be maybe. If Group D is the group of death, this one looks to be the most competitive, maybe. And as you mentioned, we'll see what Ego Rogue can do there, because they're not the team that they were in the past. But I think that makes sense, because they've been, I mean, most of the ready players have been pushed into the LEC, so I feel like it's going to take time for the org to bring a new generation of players. Maybe they're under construction, I would say.
I think even then, and I think this is why I'll have my argument real quick. Okay. Why I think this group is not as deadly as people make it out to be. I think when people look at a Go Rogue, they look at a name, and they don't necessarily look at that team. If anyone did not follow the playoffs of Ultraliga, Rogues were just much like their main team, really bad at closing out games. Like, they had 10k gold leads. They threw 3 games in a row. And I'm sorry, but if you can't close out games, then you're not a good team. Like, this is a team that genuinely has a lot of individual talent, but I think right now they also have a lot of struggles. That is, for my sake, when I put them up against UCAM, when I put them up against Misfits, I could genuinely see them really struggle against these 2 teams.
Okay, so to hash on that, they still went 11-2 in the regular season. So it actually looks a lot like the main team because they went 0-3, 0-3 in playoffs, but they had a very consistent regular season. And maybe because they also dropped the game in planes to outplay the Italian representative, I'm also a little bit doubting, a little bit on the wire to how strong this team is. But was it a benefit for Rogue? And I do lean towards that way, to actually go through the planes and be able to brush that playoffs run off before you go into the group.
I think it's always a benefit to have these couple of games to get back on track and to get this taste of competition. I mean, we've talked about this in the LEC, and the fact that when you're in the lower brackets and you have to compete and play more games than the opponent waiting for you in the end, that's actually when you become more successful and you become stronger. And that's also something we've seen in the LFL finals, with Misfits going from the back of the gauntlet to meeting K-Corp in the finals. They actually became stronger while K-Corp was just waiting for them. So it's down to, did we see everything from Ego Rogue, as you said? Because if they have like difficulties to close out a game, maybe they're limited in the kind of champions they can play. But I also think that having more time to train on stage games, even if it's just best of one, is always a benefit from any team.
Yeah, and I think we still need to keep our eyes on them. Lucker is an amazing AD carry there. Oh, yeah. I've seen clips come by where he's 1v4 with Israel and still kills everyone. Oh, yeah. So they still have amazing players, even though they're probably rebuilding as the entirety of Ultraliga. And Arthrosis Famagusta, I know it's for a lot of people, and definitely maybe for you guys, they come from the Greek Legends League. It's their second main stage in a row. They got first in the GLL. Last time in a rather easier group, if you compare them just pound for pound, they went 2-4. How hard is it to look at this group? Because we're already debating how good is Ego Rogue, which is still a big name, which still has a lot of players that are up to capacity, basically. How hard is it to roll into this group and actually play League of Legends? I don't know, Goldberg, if you can shed a light on that from your experience as a coach, actually.
I mean, my coaching is definitely not the one you'd be bringing up. I missed out on European Masters every time, so I mean, it's not something that I want to look back on fondly, or at least try to implicate. I think, at least from Famagusta and the way that Famagusta and the way I've seen them play, that at times they can be really inconsistent. I think they're one of these teams, and as we saw from them last time with Dominant into jungle, that can really run away with games coming in with their old style. But I also think that they can be quite inconsistent, where a lot of their early games really did not go their favor. And a lot of the times they had to crawl their way back into games by out team fighting their opponents. And I think that is fine on a national Greek basis. But when you go up against Misfits and have to out-team fight them, when you go up against UCAM and have to out-team fight them from a gold deficit, then I'm starting to get a bit worried for you. And that's why I think, like, from my point of view with the groups and everything here, and of Forces, probably a bit unlucky for them being here. I think they have the potential through their sheer aggression to upset some games, but I definitely see them as the bottom of this group.
Yeah, I think it's a fair statement. They have a long road ahead of them, but I also think it's a group where this, like, just dropping one game to an Arthrosis can mean not making it out. And the same way that other ERLs have surprised us in the past, I really hope that they just go 3-3 or something crazy and get out of this group, because that's always fun to see. Then let's move our way up to Misfits, because that's of course the seed that Laure wants to talk about the most. We still have UCAM in this group. Shaky season. They had to swap out their support, but they brought in new French blood, new talent there in the bot lane. And I think in playoffs they showed, like, I saw a lot of tweets of Hades, of course, Dutch jungler, come by like, okay, we're just not that great, we will step it up come playoffs. And I think it showed at the end, like when they actually reached playoffs, they started to show signs of the old UCAM again, where it's all the parts are stronger when they play together than if you take them in isolation. The sum is stronger than the parts. And I'm worried for this group because EUCAM, they have experience. Four of these players have played together. Then you have Misfits that has like the same roster. Is that experience of EUCAM just going to make them go through this group? Because in my opinion, it might just be enough to close this one out.
I am actually not too sure. I think it's going to come down to the day for a lot of them. I think, as you said yourself, I mean, that's the argument you presented as well, Law, as well, with teams playing more, especially coming in with roster swaps. Like, I think it's going to benefit them that they've now got time to wait, got more time to scrim, got more time to gel together. But I think this team, for sure, even after getting second, there still can be a lot of questions in terms of what is the peak level we have seen this team at, because they came in with a new player, they got second. That's insanely good. How much more could they improve over the time that they now get? That is definitely one of the interesting ones. But you know, I'm still waiting for Law here and Misfits as well, because I mean, I know how much he loves talking about these French team, and we've been taking it very cool so far, just going under the radar. So.
Okay, so let's dive straight in. So Misfits, for those who don't know, they have a lot of Polish players. They have people like Woolite on there. They were second in the LFL last split. They lost in the quarterfinals of EU Masters 1-2 to BTXL that eventually made the finals. And now in summer, I mean, everything seemed to come together. It's like the story of the main team as well. If we look at Rogue and now we look at Misfits, they kept the roster. They played their hearts out. They actually won 3-1 over Carmine, which is something that I put highly in my book. Is the sky the limit for this roster? Because I think they're just coming in hot and heavy.
I think it's super interesting because Misfits has always been this top of the standings team in the LFL, but I feel like it's this summer, especially that they just came together. We saw the potential they had in spring. In summer, especially in playoffs, they popped off. They became maybe one of the most aggressive and strong early game team, but they also pop off in team fights afterwards. And I mean, we know most of these players, Woolite, Jack Troll, they spent their time in the LEC and in the bigger leagues. So I didn't think that these players, for instance, had more to show, but it turns out that they do. And you talk about the finals, and I really want to put an emphasis on the fact that it was a huge upset because the tracking record for Misfits Premier versus K-Corp was 7-1 in favor of K-Corp. Like, they never won against them during the year, so no one expected them to win. And it's just they play by the book, they trust each other, and they have the experience to be the team that they are today. And they didn't steal the trophy from K-Corp, honestly. They deserve everything they achieved. And I feel like you never know with best of ones, honestly, because that's also not the moment that they got to shine the most. But yeah, especially in this group, I don't see any team being, except EUCAM, honestly, I don't see any team being a real challenge for Misfits Premier because, yeah, again, we can also talk about the language barrier and the fact that it's mostly Polish players. So I saw them talking together, and Certus sometimes may feel a bit lonely because that's a lot of Polish players talking to outside the game, of course, but it's just proof that this team is united and the bond that they have goes even beyond the game. So yeah, I'm expecting more from them than what we've seen in spring.
So if anyone haven't been following LFL, if they only watched European Masters last time, they watched the finals, they saw K-Cup, the hype around it. Can we expect the same kind of level of play from the LFL this time? Should we be as hyped this time around for this European Masters as we were for K-Corp last time for the LFL?
I mean, when I compare the LFL to the other leagues, I feel like the top 5, top 6 from the LFL is super competitive. And I don't know if it's something we can see in the other IRLs. Well, most of the time it feels like there's a top 3 that's going to be super defined, and that's going to be these teams or these players that are going to be sent to the EU Masters afterwards. But the LFL this year, and especially in summer, maybe it's because the playoff format only allows 5 teams to get to playoffs, but the league has been super competitive, and the last 2 to 3 remaining spots were undecided until the last week. So every team is, I don't want to say on the same level, but they're aiming for the same kind of level. And it's not just K-Corp or Misfits that are scary. It's the actual top 6 of the LFL. So yeah, the 2 teams that we're sending this summer, they've been trained against teams that are used to screaming teams in the LEC or the other top teams in the IRL, so they're coming in ready for sure. And yeah, I'm sad for Vitality because it's becoming a meme at this point, the fact that they're stuck in planes. But yeah, besides that, it's two super strong teams, I feel.
I was just about to ask, because if the top 6 is so competitive, and I think we can draw a comparison here to Spain, where the LVP also in the end, and we're going to talk about it later in the show, Giants just about made the 6th slot and then actually won the playoffs. It's also very competitive in the top. But in that regard, if you say, okay, all these teams are so strong, doesn't it like show maybe like a little bit of a warning or a word of caution that that Vitality didn't make it out of that group with Mouse actually didn't make it? Because it might be a little bit of a meme, but Vitality, I know we had Asa on, also a player in the LFL, on our desk in the Benelux, and he expected Vitality to win from Misfits because they were a more consistent team.
We all did, but Vitality, I mean, they're one of the teams who suffered roster changes from spring to summer, with Shiganda being subbed in and SLT coming back to the LFL. I'm wondering if it had a bigger effect than what we thought on the whole team. And I know that it's a team that has been struggling. It's players that have been struggling. I have my eyes on Skins, for instance, and I know that we had high hopes for him. But when it comes to these important moments, usually the team doesn't come together. So I'm actually suspecting a big pressure issue for this team. And also the fact that they had a new coach. I don't feel like this was the stable year we wanted for Vitality. And I feel like both in the LFL and in the LEC, this team needs a big shift for next year. And some solid bases, maybe.
Do you? So we're gonna quickly start closing off, because we have to go into the other groups as well. But I think the LFL is a good talking point because they are the defending champion. Do you expect the double LFL finals to happen? Do you expect Misfits against Carmine just in the EU Master finals this time?
Well, it would be the first time that the LFL wins back-to-back, am I right? So we'll see if we can make it. But honestly, I just want one NFL team in the finals, and my dream scenario would be to face Big in the finals.
Okay,
we'll see. Yeah,
okay.
they're my second favorites, let's say.
Okay. So they didn't meet our contenders list, but they're your second favorite, and it would be the first time for any RL, by the way. So LFL already has the most wins; they have 3, but if they could win back to back, it's never been done before. If we don't count Origin, the first EU Masters, as a Spanish lineup, because let's be honest, that was an international lineup. Last word maybe before we go off is you're such a huge advocate for your region, and with Adam we just saw someone go from LFL second division to LFL to EU Masters to LEC and now Worlds, which is insane in a year. Is there any other French talent in EU Masters that the watchers and the listeners at home need to keep their eye on this EU Masters?
I mean, we talked about Seiken, of course. We talked about him in spring. We saw what he was capable of. He didn't shine in his first year in the LEC, which is why he needed some more comforts maybe. And I feel like K-Corp and the EU Masters brought him everything he needed to take it to the next level. So I would expect maybe to see Seiken in the LEC next year. And I know he's not a French player, but we claim him as French, Targamas.
Targamas.
He's honestly, I'm a huge support fan, and he's one of my favorite supports right now. I had my eyes on Trimby last year, the same way I had my eyes on Kaiser 2 years ago. He gives me the same vibes. He won't shy away from playing Pyke whenever he feels like it, and he's like super smart about the game and such a good teammate, and he can act as a carry if he's put in the right conditions. So yeah, him and Seiken, I would say maybe we'll see them in the LEC next year. We'll see.
Okay, those are some amazing players to look at, especially Targamas, a personal favorite as well, because not only is he Belgian, he's just an amazing support, and
he's
a bit like Niski. Yeah, he's French. It's the same as Niski. Niski has been claimed by the French audience, and rightfully so. So, Laura, I want to thank you for joining us. I think it's clear that Misfits should be the favorite for everyone watching in Group A, and apparently for a very deep run. And we will take Big into consideration for the end of the podcast to see if they make our contenders list.
Thank you for the invite, and have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
And thus that concludes us. I don't know where I was going with that. That concludes our Group A review. I think in general, it's probably to the expectations of many, but maybe putting Ego so low, I don't know. It still feels weird, but as you said, it's a name, right? It's what that team has done. They were the first academy team, I think, in my opinion, that opened everyone's eyes. Like, okay, you can actually use an ERL to foster talent, and they were still the first, and it was so weird to not see them in the Ultraliga finals, but they went 0-3, 0-3. So I don't know. I actually think we might be right with not making them a top dog in this group and thinking they might go out.
I mean, it's definitely going to be an interesting thing. I think it's something that time will tell going up to it. But I mean, it's been like that for the Ultraliga for a while now, I feel like. But that also is a great segment for the next guest coming into us.
Because I think the next guest might have something to say about this. So we'll get into Group B now, and we'll be joined by MAGVAYER. Okay, so this beautiful face joining us is, of course, MAGVAYER, and we are counting Ego Rogue out in Group A. Is that something you can get behind, or are you kind of fuming internally right now?
But being completely honest, you have a good point. Not thinking that Ego Rogue is a strong team right now. Well, they have struggled during the playoffs, and like you mentioned before, they have a lot of troubles closing out the games where they can get leads like 10k or 15k and then lose the game. I've talked to the players after the finals, and they assured me that they will fix the issues, that they will work hard, and well, it kind of showed in the play-ins, but I think that they took a step back, falling into those late game scaling compositions that always worked in Ultraliga, and it got them into the group stage. So I think that actually play-ins helped them a lot, and my expectation for Ego Rogue, even seeing the group, is to get out, but it will be a tough challenge ahead of them, especially adding that they have a Greek team in the group, and Polish teams and teams from Greece never liked each other. You can even watch back the EU Masters from the spring, where Kick was placed into the group with Anorthosis, and well, it didn't go that well. So
yeah, I think they went 1-5 if my memory serves me right. So yeah, I mean, who just quickly on that before we dive into Group B, who do you think is not going to make it out then? If Ego Rogue is in your book, like, okay, they're going to make it out of the group, is there, like, what team are you dropping? Are you dropping UCAM or are you dropping Misfits?
I would rather not tell, but I actually really liked UCAM during the last EU Masters. I think they have great fundamentals, and they are really the team that knows what to do at every stage of the game. Like, I have to tell you that Ego Rogue is getting out, and of course Misfits Premier. Like, actually, Misfits Premier is more of a Polish team than Ego Rogue in this group, having 4 polls.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah, you can ask me how can you improve Ego Rogue? Add 2 more polls to the roster, and then you have it. Of course, no offense to Lurax and Crazy are great players, but I would say Misfits from the first, and then Ego Rogue from the second.
Okay. So okay, let's get stuck in here, because we're here to talk about Group B. We pulled you in because there's an organization there that a lot of people will not know, and it has a very funny story. I actually asked you the moment I saw that organization, like, okay, what's going on here? Because as you can see below us on the logos as well, they have an interesting logo. So you have Movistar Riders. They come from the LVP. They actually came from Plains. So big surprise there. They were a first seed in Spain. And then they actually had to go through Plains. Then you have Tricked, at this time our dark horse in this group, the first NLC seed.
Biased?
Maybe a little bit biased. They're also very Danish, so the Danish dynamite is back in full effect there. And then you have Penta. I'm not gonna pronounce it in German. I know it's supposed to, but 1860 or 1860. I don't know how you say it in German. I'm just gonna be honest. Which is a very new
learning
organization.
German. I can think about it. Wait. 1800 yeah, I guess.
I'm pretty sure they say 1860 as well.
Okay.
To be fast. So, but that was, I think, good German, and I'm from
Danke.
Belgium, so I should know. But and then we have PDW. So let's work bottom to top again, because I like ending on the Ultraliga team and having you go all out. Movistar Riders. They were the most consistent team in the LVP. They were huge favorites to win it all, and they fell to the Vodafone Giants miracle run. They go into Plains, and they were clearly just too strong. Like there's, even though I'm picking myself up on the fact that the boys from MCon took them pretty far, they didn't win. So if you have an 11-3 Urgot in the top lane rushing Stridebreaker and you can't win, that says enough. How are they going to do in this group? Because like for me, they're actually one of the favorites to make it out.
I think in general, you would be right on that one as well. I think definitely a team that, as you said yourself, going from the regular season, are a very scary team. And they also had, like, we talked about Giants, they have familiar names, but this team also have MaxLaw. I had MaxLaw in the NLC at the start of that season. He absolutely sucked, but there was a lot of internal issues as well with his team not paying salary, so the players were not very motivated to play the game. So that was a big of a drama coming from that one. So to me, it's very good seeing him in a fundament where like an MVP jungle performance from the regular split coming into it as well. So I definitely think that when you look at this, they are counted, despite being a play-ins team, as one of the teams who are supposed to make it out if they can get back in form, because that form clearly, of course, wasn't there throughout playoffs.
Yeah, even watching back the history of the EU Masters, most of the times, like teams from the plains actually got out and then performed really well in the whole tournament. So I wouldn't count them out just because they're from plains. I would rather side with you that they're a strong team. And I actually quite like all three seeds from the Spanish league. EUM, it really impressed me last time around. Giants, of course, the miracle run, Attila doing his things. I'm quite hyped to see Attila face other EU Masters ADCs. As I always knew that his ego is quite high and he's a really confident guy. So I would like to see him face Slacker or someone else just as talented as him. And of course, Movistar Riders. Max LAURE, well, he was long gone from the radar of European League of Legends, and now he has a chance to show his strength again, because he was a legendary player back in the time, and well, he kind of went quiet for some time.
Yeah, and I think in general, Max LAURE, because I want to reiterate the fact that he's there is not only the only thing that I'm looking towards Max LAURE for, because it looks like the team also plays for him in the early game. I saw that firsthand when my colleagues were casting his games against the MCon, our Dutch league representative. It's like, if Max LAURE gets ahead, the game is done, and that's basically how they try to play the game, and it's pretty cool to see. And in that regard, I don't know, the next team, Tricked Esports, it feels. And this is Goldberg's territory, so we're going to give him the mic soon. It feels like they did the unthinkable in the NLC. They finally broke the academy team curse, and they are a very consistent team because they topped their group as well. Are they getting out? Because you said, okay, they're my dark horse. Do you actually secretly expect that they might not be strong enough, and just let your bias weigh in on your answer? And
so here's the thing, right? Because I already talked about, okay, I think Movistar is one of the teams making it out. And that means that if I think Tricked is one of the teams making it out, I may be throwing Ultraliga a bit under the bus here
again.
And reason for that is obviously I need to see Ultraliga actually be more competitive than I at least saw last time around. It used to be a very stellar region, but truth of the fact is that, they didn't really make it out of groups last time. I think it was a very, very sad season to be Ultraliga fan, and that's kind of what I'm banking on as well, that maybe they're still in a slump a little bit, and because of that, we can come in from Tricked and upset some games, because I definitely think when you look at the core strengths right now, I think PDW would be better, but I'm taking into account some Ultraliga curse together with some Danish Dynamite hope, and because of that, we'll have the mid jungle, we'll have the AD carry pop off, and we'll get the miracle run. But once again, this is full biased. I think Trick can stay competitive, but I think a lot of people will definitely not look at them as one of the teams going out of this group.
Yeah, well, me actually looking at the Group B, I think it's a strong and a competitive group, but well, I'll be a little bit biased, but I think also PDW is making it out. My one concern is how they will do in best of ones, because during the regular split in Ultraliga, they dropped 6 games and only won 8. That gave them this, the 3rd position. It only showed how competitive the whole regular season was, because I think it was one of the most surprising seasons this time around. Team SK Gaming just completely obliterating everyone besides Agorogue and placing 2nd, then to fall in the playoffs. They were one best of 5 away from the EU Masters. And Illuminor Gaming, we'll not talk about them that much because I'll focus on the PDW, but they were a big surprise as well. And of course, Ultraliga is not stale anymore. I think 2021 is the year of actually rebuilding the whole league. We let out a lot of good players, like they're actually, I think, the the what do you call where the guy with. Oh my god, I have to look it up. I just forgot one little thing and it's making me nervous.
I'm completely blanking on what you're trying to guide.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
Orn, where does Orn work, you know?
in
the Forge. In the Forge, yeah. So
okay.
Ultraliga is like the Forge of Talent for Europe.
Oh, okay, yeah. No,
yeah,
but
sorry.
Okay, so I'm quickly gonna brush up the last representative of the group. I think it's also something that we're just gonna post to BLACKGATOR, who's coming on at the end of the show. So stick around if you want to know more, because I mean it's just an unknown team, an unknown entity for us. They also have a lot of young German players that are kind of even rookies on the highest level. So you have Penta, who qualified this season for Primeleague, if I'm not mistaken. They saw some players leave and then took some other rookies from the first division, and Scarface that used to play for Ad Hoc as their basically their how do you say this? Their experienced rock in the top lane, basically. And they became first in regular season, which was a surprise for me when I was watching the region, because like it's an unknown organization. Yet the finals didn't go that great. They got 3-0'd by Big, and they're just put there. Like that's what we said already in Germany. The system is just like, okay, it's king of the hill. So their only best of 5 was finals. That's the only thing we have to go on. At least Ego got to play 2 best of 5s, and sadly didn't prove that they could adjust between those. But I don't know what to expect from Penta. But I think, yeah.
So I think the thing with Penta in general is that, they, as you said yourself, like there are some rookies coming in, but like Phantomless has qualified from PG Nationals before. Obviously didn't make it as far, but we are still talking about players with experience in this roster. Even under the regular season at the Primeleague, a lot of people did not expect them to be in this position. It just kind of felt like it's an upset after an upset after an upset. Because if you have never heard about Penta before, I would not blame you. They came from the 2nd division. They had their first season in Primeleague this spring, and then all of a sudden they just make it as first seed. And once again, if you are first seed in regular season in Primeleague, you are seeded directly into the finals, and because of this, they just had the spot immediately. And I actually think that hurts a team a little bit if they don't get to take at least some games throughout the playoffs, because playing those best of series really gives you some experience that you just won't get out of the scrims, and you just won't really feel the same point of the meta or the drafting point of view that you sometimes will, being in the moment, being in one of these playoffs games.
Yeah, and I think we see it in across all levels of play, because you see it in I started in my region, which is a minor ERL. You see it in almost every ERL where it's not just the King of the Hill format. And if you look at the LEC at the end, in those best of 5s, there's a lot of teams that play as many games in a best of 5 that they play in the regular season, which is just insane stage experience. And I think in that regard, we can go a little bit deeper onto PDW, because as I've heard, with putting Movistar Riders up there, probably putting PDW up there as a 2nd, and maybe Tricked to challenge them. And then I think Penta can still prove us wrong. So this group might not look as the strongest on paper, but I think it might be very competitive. What is PDW? Because if you look at the logo, it's apparently something that came after 7x7 Pompa. Yeah. It's a full Polish glory team with like the name is a meme in Poland. What can we expect from this team on the biggest stage?
Okay, a little backstory. PDW actually in Poland, in Polish, translates to greetings from the prison, because they had to change their name.
How does that make sense?
So, yeah, okay, so MAGVAYER can explain this, because he explained it to me and I was like, okay.
Yeah, because before the season started, the owner of the Pompa team got suspended from taking part in all of the Riot tournaments. You can find the whole article about it. I'm not sure if it's in English, so they had to rebrand. and PDW is like saying, "Yeah, greetings for my homies in the prison."
Okay.
Well, they didn't state it as a full name, but everyone pretty much knows what this means. It's like a street slang.
Okay.
But moving on to the actual.
It's
Factual
actually
facts,
important stuff.
yeah. PDW is a great team. The most, I think, impressive thing about them is that they can actually play anything, and they prepared really well against Agarok for the best of 5 series. It's thanks to the really experienced coaching staff. Zeturel, who is the coach of the team, works closely with Menkyu, who is like one of the most legendary coaches as well on the Polish scene. Zeturel actually took part in 7 of Ultraliga seasons, so he's quite experienced. He won quite a lot. And you can see them flex a lot of champs. You can see them play to the different roles, like Color, for example. He didn't play that much Jace, but he really impressed me with how well he can do on a weak side and then translate his play style to the team fights. But of course, the biggest star of the team is Chayek. Guy is like, back two years ago, he was the first guy to hit Challenger when he was 15 years old, and then he won Ultraliga as a substitute. So after winning this time, I asked him how he feels, and he actually got like, yeah, this time I earned it. This time, this was me winning the whole thing with PDW. He's a great talent, and I think he's the most carry guy on the team. He sometimes has his games off, but he never falls behind. And he can do pretty much anything. He can play Lulu, Karma, then play Akali, then play, control mages, anything. Just look at the Games of Legends Chayek side, and champion pool is massive. And of course, you have some additional, let's say, experience in Kubit, who is a player, like, he started playing when Polish scene was formed, like, basically. I remember one of my fellow casters, Ava here, he was a coach back at the time, like 7 years ago or something, and he won the Polish tournament, the Polish championship with Kubit on the team, and now he's winning in Ultraliga. This guy is, like, unkillable in terms of the longevity. So yeah, PDW, I really have high hopes for them. Okay. I'm only afraid of the best of 1 format, because I'm quite sure if they get to the quarterfinals, they will perform well.
What is it about those best of 1s that is it just like inconsistent early game? They struggle to close. What would you think is the core reason they may have issues with a best of 1?
Maybe I shouldn't be that afraid, because I think during the regular season they were experimenting a lot. Like, Zeturel is quite confident. He knows that only playoffs matter. If you get to qualify for playoffs and then have a good run, it doesn't matter if you scored 8-6, 6-8 or anything. It just matters that you won the whole thing. And during the regular season, they often bring out those compositions that doesn't make sense, or risk it with the last pick and it just falls apart. So I guess they were looking for the identity, and they were just trying to fit in with each other, and they actually did, because during the playoffs they showed great strength. I was actually quite surprised to see 3-2 scoreline versus Illuminator Gaming, but I guess it was the stage what happened to them, because, well, like any other league, we didn't have a LAN tournament for a long time, so players were quite fresh to the to the scene, to the stage.
Yeah. I mean, okay, I'm getting sold on PDW actually, but I always get sold when you talk to me. And then last spring, no Ultraliga team made it out of groups, so I'm gonna.
Sorry, I'll cut in. I actually heard LAURE like saying she would like to see LFL back-to-back champions, but I'm so sorry. 2019 spring EU Masters, of course, LFL team won. Then the same thing in 2020. But it just never works like that.
Okay.
It was the German team that actually broke the curse in the summer, then Polish team, and then I don't know, maybe Spanish team this year around, or maybe Polish team. I'm not sure. I will be quite okay with Misfits Premier winning the whole thing, because then we have 4 Polish players on the roster who won.
Okay.
Yeah.
So quickly, a last thought, because we have to get into the other group. Sure. You already said that you went through some forge, right? The entire Polish team reforged itself. You had to rebuild after the last season. You already said you would be happy with actually the Polish team from the LFL making it to finals and winning. what would make you as a Polish representative, as a Ultraliga caster, what would make you happy with what the Polish teams can do on the EU Master stage? Is it just making it out of groups now, or are you still aiming a little bit higher?
Ah, come on, just getting out of groups. I know that the spring happened, but come on, have some faith. I think that actually getting to semifinals will be a big win for Ultraliga. Like, I actually talked to the players and they said the same thing. Like, we know we are not the favorites, we know we are not in the best shape, but I think, like, we think that playoffs are within our reach, and it's like actual challenge that you can face. Of course, you may fall, but if you don't aim high, you don't score highs. So yeah, I think I will back them up on this.
Okay.
My hopes are for semifinals.
Which team is doing it then?
Okay.
Either PDW or Illuminator.
Okay.
I think this will be the breakout year for those guys. I'm a little bit concerned about Illuminator because they performed really well, but it was on a LAN tournament, and with Laku, their top laner, just shouting and shot calling everything. You should be there. You should have seen it because it was just a magical sight. But yeah, I have high hopes for them. So I'll just say either Illuminator or PDW. But if I were to name one team, it will be for sure PDW.
Okay, I want to thank you, MAGVAYER, for joining us. I think you did the Polish scene proud, and we have to get going to the next group. But we will maybe adjust our assumptions of PDW.
If you need someone to jump in to defend Polish teams, you can just call me.
Okay.
I'll do anything.
Will do.
Thank you so much, guys. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
And that brings us to Group D. I mean, he was outspoken about the fact that we might be underestimating the Polish teams a little bit. I think he might be right. I mean, he has been casting them, and he's a very great analyst. That's why he always convinces me that teams might be strong. At the same time, I think it's about time we move to the next guest. It's about time we move to Noah and the LVP, because we've had the LFL, now we have had the Ultraliga, but as MAGVAYER himself said, maybe it's finally time for the LVP for Spain to rise again, because they feel like the great old. I don't know if you have the same feeling about them, Goldberg, but it's like you had Mad Lions in the beginning, then you had that one giant summer, and for the rest it has been a bit stale. And I see that Noah has joined us as well by now.
Yeah, hello guys. Yeah, maybe it's about time that we won again. Don't you think so?
I think maybe, but that's why we got you here to convince us basically. And at the end, we will see how convinced we are. I mean, I don't know if you caught the beginning of the show, because I know your amazing setup is very remote, and that's why you're holding your mic. But we put the LVP as basically our second favorite underneath the LFL. Is that something you can get behind, or?
I know it may be intimidating, all the LFL money, all the LFL talent all stacked. We are intimidated as well, but I think it's about time that we won again. Yeah, I have been watching the entire show, so I saw you put us very high standards, and it's going to be difficult to be at the level of that standards. But I really think, and I've been saying this like during all the season, during all the split in a Spanish broadcast, I was like, yeah, I'm so chilling. I'm chilling about our teams. I think we're in very good shape, and it's all on them right now. Maybe I'm overselling them, but I think we're in a very good shape.
Okay, so let's get right in, because we're here for and that might be a bit weird. We changed the schedule up a bit because the next guest, BLACKGATOR, he had other responsibilities. He was doing a coaching stream in regards to Gamescom, which is, of course, a huge event in Germany. So we're going straight into Group D. And let's be honest, I don't know how it's always Group D, but Group D seems to be the group of death. We have Carmine Corp there, we have Matchco there, we have Mouse Sports there from Plains, and then we have Vodafone Giants. Let's just start top to bottom again. So then we have to start with Mouse Sports, which is weird, but they came from Plains. Like, I honestly love this team just for their playstyle. I mean, they play Zed jungle in playoffs, and that's the only win they get in the Prime League. How scary is this lineup with the fact that they were second in regular season in the Prime League, and they were actually one of those favorites to win it all over there?
I think in general, with Mouse it's a truly interesting thing that they've been able to retain the same identity despite with roster changes and leader no longer being there, because they still feel like this high impact team that can generally, as you said, bring out the set jungle or the consistency you get from Checolad in the mid lane, and that is the thing as well that makes them a very scary team, that they do have a lot of experience still on their team now. They're very flexible with a lot of their picks, and just in general the guys still being at that roster. Gadget as well, still being able to, bring out whatever down in that bot lane, having the experience of even going to larger tournaments as well. I think that this team is for sure still a team that needs to be reckoned with, or can be reckoned with. I think we saw a bit of it in play-ins. But to me, it's still like some of these inconsistencies we see for them that still doesn't, to me, make them the scariest in the group just yet.
And I don't know if you saw them at Plains, Noah, because in Spain you also covered the Plains. I think they actually held back. Like, I saw Checolad really test the limit there a couple of games against other teams who were just like playing forward, not really caring about game state, trying to search the outplay. I remember one play with Lissandra, I think it was for their placement into the main stage, where it just he throws his E forward, flashes back under the tower, trying to get a solo kill when he sees he's about to get ganked. Can they turn it on? Because they're in the group with Vodafone Giants, maybe your biggest hope. I don't know. I would be scared to just have Mousesports as this coin flip factor as the 4th seed in your group.
I think in Spain we're quite used to coin flip factor, because we have some like I don't know how to say it. The psychopaths in the jungle, psychopath laners, psychopath supports. We have everything in Spain, so we are kind of used to. This year we're kind of used to the coin flip factor. But yeah, I was casting that precise game you are talking about, the Lissandra one, and I was just like, what is Checolad doing? He's just worried about the solo kill. His hands up and all about the fun, and he's not worrying about anything. Yeah, but. I'm actually agree with Goldberg. I think the Mousesports is kind of inconsistent, and they may be facing like the same result they had in spring. They were also, if I'm not mistaken, they were also in the group of death, because D stands for death, and we need to be used to this. As you said, group D is always group of death. So they were also in the group of death, and they didn't make it, and they need to be careful. And
in spring, and that's I don't want to keep your hopes down, but in spring they actually made semifinals.
But to be fair, no, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt, because I've heard they played a 3-game tiebreaker between Lumina, Machko,
that's right.
That was a group C.
No. To put the point of that as well, they sucked in the beginning. Mouse Genie sucked at the beginning of last play, so I can understand why no one happens like it.
So okay,
Gulber has no mercy. It's awesome.
He's not pulling punches today, which is great.
Yeah.
On that note, I'm gonna interject here. They were in the same group with Machko, and I remember that they had to play Machko as well to get out. And Machko is in the group again. I mean, now they're in the group of death, and you're right. Now Mousesports is there. Now Machko is there as well. And as you said, Mouse is inconsistent. I think Machko, and for a lot of people, is going to be an unknown factor maybe, because it's an Italian team. The only thing they changed was their bot lane after last season. They got 1st seed again. They just won the PG Nets again. And we saw Makers have a good run last split, while people were thinking Machko could have a good run, and they forced that tiebreaker there. Just sadly didn't make it out. It's the toughest group you can get, but they're a consistent team. Can they do damage? Like, let's say against the coin flip of Mousesports, maybe against Carbine, maybe against Vodafone. Can they do something in this group? Because it's like David versus Goliath.
Listen, I've had Moonboy whisper in my ears for a long time now. And every time he talks about Machko, he's just telling me, you know what, Goldberg, this team, you're not going to believe it, but they're going to win it all. They're just going to, you need to see this on the broadcast. You need to be ready to root for them. And I can get behind it a little bit. There is 2 Danes. They kept the top side of the map. They brought Click in, which also obviously made it with Makers down into the groups. They changed Gubby for another Danish AD carry called Bushy. So I think from an underdog point of view, they have the potential. From a realistic point of view, I mean, that I guess we'll have to see, but my hopes are not very, very high for them.
I'm really sorry about this thing, because if they were in another group, they may be the dark horse of the tournament, and also PG Nationals teams for me. quite perform over the standards that we may have on them.
Yeah.
So for me, it's so sad that they ended up being in the group of death, because I would love to see Mako maybe in Group C, maybe in Group B. They could make it out of groups, but this team is like so stacked that it looks so difficult for them to be like the Dark Horse that I don't know. It is a miracle even to win a single game.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. It's like it would have been like if you just swap them out with other lower ERL seeds or minor ERL seeds, however you want to call it. I would be like, okay, they can really do some damage. That's why I posed the question here, because you look at it. We have mouse sports, okay, and Noah, you already established along with Goldberg, their coin flip, they're inconsistent. We don't know what to expect. If the coin lands on hits, they go Zed jungle 20-0 or whatever, and they carry every game. But if it doesn't, they might just not make it. They have Machko is like this consistent team from a ERL that in spring did very great, that had 2 teams in main stage, that almost made 2 teams out of the group. So you're like, okay, if you put them in another group, they might make it out. And then you look at the top of this group, and that's what we're going to look at now. And then you start. The second seed is Carmine Corp. Yeah, how insane is that? As those other 2 teams, you're coming in, you have to fight Carmine Corp, the winner of last year. The only thing they changed was Adam, who went to Fnatic, who's now going to Worlds, and they got Cabochard in the place, who is like this French staple top laner that always performed no matter the team. How scared do you have to be? Because I have a feeling, even though Misfits did an amazing playoffs run, that Carmine Corp still thinks they can win the entire thing, and I don't think they would especially be wrong about this assumption.
Do you have your fears about them, Noah?
No, I have no fear. I have no fear. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not worried at all about K Corp. No, not at all. But yeah, like it's so intimidating. Like for me, it was a surprise watching K Corp falling in the finals. And I was like, they are going to be again in the group with Miniduke. Like Vodafone Giants mid laner, I was like joking with him. He was in Creamery Albetis back in spring, and he was again in the group of death with Carmine Corp. And I was like, you are going to play again versus them during the group states. Take my word, it's going to be like that. And here we are again with Miniduke versus K Corp. He was like, they lost just to face me again in groups. It's like amazing, and it's going to be so tough. It's like, how do you change like this rookie top laner for Cabochard and you ended up being second? It's like so odd to me, but you need to be afraid of K Corp and the way they play. If you're not afraid, you're like so dumb, and it's going to be so tough. But the group is going to be tough. Vodafone Giants is going to be forced to play like their best, but they have been like in this miracle run mode like for weeks, even months, because they were like in the middle of the split. Vodafone Giants was so out. People, we were thinking that Giants was not going to make it to the players, but if the miracle run came until here, it's going to be farther than here.
Okay. Hopefully you would think so. Yeah. I mean, I think when I look at this team as well, and specifically the groups as well, I think a lot of these potential bot lane matchups are certainly going to be something to be actually happy about. Exactly, because I mean, we will obviously move on to Vodafone Giants, but just to get a little tease, Attila, Kasing, Targamas, Xmati, and then obviously Gadget as well over from the side of Mouse, and then Click, who's also probably the best Italian support that's been in DRLs for a long time now. So I definitely think that this is really a spicy group, not only in terms of how all these teams are insanely good, but in terms of like what they bring out of each other when they finally face each other on the Rift.
Yeah, let's get into it then, into Vodafone Giants, because I can tell that Noah is about to pop off about the Spanish glory there. So I distinctly remember, Noah, you're an amazing mainstay on our updates that we have on YouTube channel. So if you don't know what we're talking about, go check out EUniverse on YouTube. And I remember Vodafone Giants being at the bottom, and actually people being like, okay, how is this possible with these names? Like you had this semi rebrand with the new logo, you had all these amazing players. Like, what's happening? They barely. And I mean barely, like in the last day, they clutched the 6th seeds, because we heard LAURE say like, okay, top of the LFL is competitive. In the LVP, it was madness at the end of the season. Like, who is actually going to make it? It's Vodafone Giants. And then they go on this insane playoff run where you're like, where was this team this entire split. You had D'Antonio and tanks just bodying people. You had Attila and Cassin actually stepping up and trying to carry. Like, what happened to Vodafone Giants, and how good are they? How hot and heavy are they coming into this E-Master Summers?
We were wondering about this like during the whole season. It's like Vodafone Giants in summer joined like a super team, a Spanish super team, in order to claim not the Spanish title, but the European Masters title, because Giants is like the Spanish powerhouse. They won like 7 times in Spain. It's like the eldest club in the eldest organization in Spain. And we were like, how is this team failing? It made no sense for us, but they had like a lot of issues with COVID. I think it was the whole team went through COVID. It was chaos inside the team. They in interviews and stuff, and they were like, we were like so low on energy. We were like one with COVID, another one with COVID. It was like a whole month. They were tied with eMonkeys. We were joking all the season with this. They were tied with eMonkeys. They were direct rivals to eMonkeys. eMonkeys was in relegations a few days ago, and they are now.
Sorry, that explains. I was like, the sound is a little bit worse, but okay, go on.
They are now in 2nd division, and they were tied with that team, and they were like playing better. Vodafone Giants, step by step, playing better, and I was like, beware them. Because if they are going to make it to playoff, they are going to win the whole league like Splice Vipers did 2 years ago. Splice Vipers was like the last week of the regular split, joined the playoffs and ended up winning the whole playoffs. So Vodafone Giants was the same energy, and they were like that. During the playoffs, they played better and better. For me, it was very important to bring 113, like the very, very rookie jungler they have. Like so insanely talented, and for me, he was the architect of the victory versus Movistar Riders. Riders was the favorite. They were in the 8th winning streak during regular split. They were playing so well. It was max floor gap every single game, and then this guy came 113 out jungle max floor, and end of the semifinals. And in the finals, it was the same. This guy 113, so young, so rookie. Versus Hades, versus Maxler, and he was playing versus them face to face and ended up winning. And you need to recognize that he's going to be a very, very talented player for this European Masters. And we're talking about also Antonio, who is like a legend here in Spain. We joke about Antonio being like, yeah, Antonio, you're going to play Wixit again, and it's like his weak play is anything. Yeah, Topdogs. Yeah, it's going to be like that all the season again. But he has an insanely good Jace. He has an insanely good Gunplank. He's not only about tanks, but it's like this guy, you give him a tank, and he's going to to solo ball in the top lane.
Yeah,
of course I'm going to give him a tank if he's going to perform like this with this kind of champions, and that allows Giants to play like front to back. Attila, like Gulbor said, doing his things, like Attila's things, playing hyper carries. Also, the mid laner, Miniduk, has been performing like so well. He's going to play whatever the team needs. He's been playing Seraphine the whole split. Yeah, it's going to be Seraphine. If it's needed, then it's Seraphine it will be. But he's very, very good also with mages.
And
also they have Casing.
Oh yeah, they have Casing for the shot call. Yeah, like we just add
Very
that one at the end. It's like, oh, you also have Casing, right? But the thing with D'Antonio is the that's how I remember him as well. Like in metas where tanks shouldn't be playable, he just locks in these tanks and then actually finds the solo kills in top lane. And you're like, how does this guy play tanks to that level? And you were very passionate about Giants. Apparently, you're an oracle and you predicted their entire miracle run. But who's the front runner now? Because you have Movistar Riders, who were like the consistently best team in the regular season. They only get one shot at the best of 5. 1-1-3 pops off the young Turkish jungler, and they get knocked out, but they go into play-ins, and they look clearly too strong for any team there. Then you have EUM, who did great in spring, that had that shaky season. They swapped in the support because of necessity, and they actually came together again and made finals. And then you have Vodafone Giants, who just popped the hell off in playoffs. Like, who are you as a person from Spain looking forward to the most? Or are these 3 teams just going to clash and all going to make it out of groups?
I'm really sure that Riders is going to make it out of groups. They've been playing like so well. If they don't choke, they're going to make it out of groups. It was Jared's words, not mine. Like they choke a bit during semifinals. But UCAM for me is like the biggest question mark, because they were like so lost, so unrecognizable after Plasma had to leave. So for me, it's like the biggest question mark, even though they made it to finals. So you need to recognize it too. And Giants has a tough group. Giants has a very, very tough group. No, for me, for sure. I expect Giants and Riders to make it out of groups, like in the good old times in 2020 with Giants and Riders. I really, really hope so. Even though, for me, you were talking about the Baldwin matchups. The Baldwin matchup I'm most worried about in the Group D is versus Mouse Sports, because Gadget is like this odd bottling style, and that is... I remember the last year, three Spanish teams lost to Gamer Legion.
Yeah.
And it was like the same kind of Jarnan things.
Yeah.
You were like, yeah, we are losing all these bottling matchups because we are not used to Jarnan playing his Jarnan things. And for me, it's like Gadget playing his Gadget things. It's the same smell for me.
Yeah. So we're talking about the Cartus in the bot lane, and to add on to that, Camilius, you can't let him play as Rakan because apparently that guy's insane on the champion, as I've seen. Goldberg, you wanted to add something.
I want to know, because obviously you're very confident about your players here when you're describing them, and you're also thinking Movistar is making it out. Is this finally the year of the LVP where you're actually coming back to being a great contender again? What is for you a successful result, having the expectations of your teams?
We were always a great contender. What are you talking about? We're bringing
resulted-
it home.
Okay.
We're
It's
bringing
okay.
it home, like in the good old Mad Lions times. It's like, for me, it was like Mad Lions, the 2018 Mad Lions. No,
Yeah.
Mad Lions is conquering the LEC, guys. I don't know what we're talking about.
that's true.
Yeah, conquer the European Masters. After that, conquering the LEC. That's Mad Lions. But for me, Mad Lions, it was like the team meant to win the two European Masters back in 2018. But if you are facing Forgiven, Froggen, Instek, Expect, and Jesse,
That's
okay.
fair.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That was cheating bit for me. European Masters, but it was a very talented lineup, and they could ended up making the two European Masters. They ended up winning in summer, and for me, Giants back in 2019,
Yeah.
I remember those finals versus Big. They could claim the title also back then, and we were kind of lost in 2020, but we are back, guys. You need to, MAGVAYER was saying, you need to have a little bit of faith. You need to have a little bit of faith, guys.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm pushing you guys to cheer for us.
Okay, so
Okay.
Spain is back.
Very
Spain
nice.
is back.
Very nice.
Yeah, I hope so, because I also fondly remember those runs of the Spanish teams, and it was a beginning of EU Masters as a circuit, and now it would be great to see Spain rise to the occasion again. Quickly, one last comment, because we are going to move on to Group C. I got hit with a meme because on the last update, I worked all night and I didn't check everything. So yeah, I basically messed up some of the players champion pools, and we got hit with the meme of a certain Nautilus one trick where they fixed the champion pool for him, put 4 Nautiluses in there, or not a lie. I don't know what the actual doesn't really matter. In any ways, is there any meme we need to know about coming into EU Masters about the players of the LVP? And as a second question, who is the crowd favorite of these 3 teams that have a way different story?
The crowd favorite is going to be Giants all the time. Like they have the influencers, they have like the history. It's going to be the favorite of the fans, like all the time. We have memes, yeah. We have the horchata meme, like there was this meme about the horchata. If you look back to the last quarterfinals game, you will see Jarge selecting Giants as their rival to the semifinals, asking for a horchata. It's like, Marky, bring me my horchata. And there's this meme around the horchata and Giants is like, from all the Giants haters, like it's a symbol. I don't know how to explain it. We are very odd here in Spain. Also, Dual, like Movistar Riders support, is known for his Nautilus. Like he's memeing like all the time because Jarch was putting him on duty, playing Nautilus like all the games. All the games. He was playing like
that one,
4 or 5 Nautilus straight. It was Nautilus set, Nautilus set, Nautilus set, Nautilus set. Like this kind of psychopathic support champion pool. It's like that. And Dukaman, very nice guys. We have the Hades show.
Yeah, the Hades show, okay.
The Hades show.
Now
when we interview Hades.
Okay.
Yeah. It's because he's like so fun when he talks at the interviews. He's like miming like all the time, and they called it like the Hades show. He's all the time like picking a fight with the other players in EUM, and it's kind of fun. It's not that meme, but it's fun. It's fun. You have the horchata. You need to make memes with horchata.
What exactly is a horchata? Just quickly, because I'm lost for.
It's the best drink in the world.
Oh, okay. So it's a drink. Okay.
It's a sweet drink from Valencia, from when I am, and it's sweet. It's very tasty, and if you travel to Spain, you need to taste it.
We need to get that for the European Masters. I'll talk to Riot because we need horchatas.
Yeah,
just
low-key flame giants. That's what I got out of that. In any case, Noah, I want to thank you for coming on. We have to believe in Spain again, so I will, and maybe we will adjust. We'll adjust our top dogs a bit.
You need to believe. Thank you guys for having me. It was so much fun. So I will leave you with the next guy.
Yeah, we're going to move into Group C because we had to change the schedule a little bit. So now BLACKGATOR should be done with his coaching, and he can join us for Group C. In general. And then I'm going to wait for the bumper to go away because timing was a bit off there. We're running a bit late. Yeah, I mean, it's the first time we do a podcast, right? And as you can see, we have a lot of passionate people on, so we're running a bit late already. But in general, I think it's funny to acknowledge that we were like, okay, France, probably the favorite, then maybe the LTP, then we're going to put Primeleague, and then maybe Ultra League or NLC. Every guest we've had on is like, no, we're the favorite. We're going to take it all. And I can see BLACKGATOR here, and I have a feeling that this guy is going to preach the word of the Primeleague and just going to put them back on top again as well.
Yeah, I feel like we should be like big. We have three strong teams. I feel like if I had to drop a hot take to start it off, I think we have 2 teams that could win EU Masters.
Okay.
And we have 1 team that could go... depending on how they took their finals loss to quarterfinals at least, and maybe semifinals.
Okay, so you have 2 teams that could win, and you have 1 team that is going to do a deep run, which would just shuffle around everything we've said up until now. So we're gonna dive straight into Group C, get that over with, and then you can defend the honor of the Primeleague, the honor of the Dark region. So in Group C, we have. The lowest seed, technically, coming from the plains, is Fnatic Rising. So that's already a bit crazy. They had to swap out Febiven because he retired as a professional player. They picked up this German rookie in Dior, and he played like one or 2 games. You can correct me on this, Goldberg. I think
he's played more than 1 or 2 games.
Before the playoffs?
Started out not before the playoffs. Yeah. He started out with playoffs, and then he was kept for the entire playoffs run going into with Fnatic. And I actually think he's slot quite well into it. Like as a young player coming into this, I think Fnatic actually not necessarily gambled, but they took a quite big risk because this is a guy who's quite proficient in solo queue. But in terms of like how good he was going to be in the team environment leading up to playoffs, I think they got a lot of it out what they wanted. He can play the Twisted Fate to actually control the map, but you can also go for more some of the more lane dominant styles. So I definitely think this is a team that just because they had a substitution can't really be counted up. It's the same thing with EUM, where I'm waiting for them to get more time to bond together, and hopefully we can see them at their full potential.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Like right before playoffs, he played like 1 or 2 games maybe, and then he had to play the playoffs with Fnatic Rising, which is a huge org in the ERL scene, of course, as an academy team of Fnatic. And he played about everything, like Seraphine, Yone in the mid lane, didn't really matter. He played what was needed. They had a good run. They fell in the finals, but they actually made the finals. They fell 3-2. And in planes, they dropped 1 game against White Dragons there, the first seed from Portugal. Is that a little bit worrying? You just said, Goldberg, that they might need some more time. Did they get enough time to be on fire for Mainstage and to actually make it out of the group?
I mean, making it out of this group, I can see it most definitely. With seeing the level of play there is here, I definitely think there is a clear favorite of this group, and I'm sure we'll get into that a bit later as well. But but I definitely think that this is a team that still has a lot of potential. I think the thing you need to look out for with Fnatic is definitely the mid jungle, or not mid jungle, but the support jungle synergy rather, from Maxi and from Rooks, and then obviously Bean as an AD carry has been in the Primeleague in the past as well. is a well-known prodigy as well, and had a lot of hype coming into him. So I'm hoping to see them deliver in that this time around.
Yeah, and the last update, that's where it went a bit wrong. We had a template set up for a Belgian league team that I'm very fond of, KV Mechelen, where they do a lot of weird stuff in the bot lane, like Heimerdinger, Pike Veigar and stuff. So that wasn't Bean's champion pool. So if you watch back on our YouTube channel, that update episode, that wasn't really correct. So we have Fnatic Rising. They come from the playing stage. They look all right. I mean, they can make it out. They have had time to adjust, maybe to Dire in the mid lane and actually get back to old form. And then right above in the group, you have Zero Tenacity. It's for a lot of you, it might not be a team you know. It's not a name that you hear a lot. They come from the EBL. They're a pretty big org there, and they have a combination of ERL and semi-pro mainstays actually, but as well as an inexperienced bot lane. BLACKGATOR, if you're looking at this team, if you're looking at Zero Tenacity, what do you think they can do in this group? Like, do you have even a little bit of a fear for, let's say, Big, the clear favorite probably of this group, that they might drop a game against this team?
No, I think the only way how Big is gonna lose to Zero Tenacity is if they're like, do you know this meme from Seas where like he's like sitting with his feet up on the desk? Like if they play like that, that is like how they lose. That if they like play on serious mode and go prepared, which is something that the coach Avendir is known for, having good preparation going into games, I don't think it's possible for them. Especially like, I feel like in this group, the mid laners will have like a hard time, especially against Rika, because I think like not only laning, his team fighting is like outstanding. I feel like it could be one of the best in the entire ERL. So I think it's going to be hard for them to win against Big.
Yeah, and I want to get into Reeker later, because I've seen the clips as well, and that guy is actually insane. But at the same time, I mean, Zero Tenacity, I just want to praise him a little bit, because it's a rather unknown region. They have Ryuzaki in the jungle, who has been like in ERLs for as long as I can remember. I've seen him at EU Masters as well. And you have, I always mispronounce his name. I don't actually know how to pronounce it, but it's like, it's written Mate, but I always say Might when I'm trying to cast him. It's MEIGHT. He was actually pretty good in spring, and I don't know, Zero Tenacity, it's a hard one to call. You had Syme Sisup doing an amazing run in last.
Let me call it for you. Let me call it for you, because here's what's happening. Okay, I know we had Sup, but this team is not Sup. Okay, with a lot of suppers, obviously star players that continuously kept coming from this region. They are now scattered all across the land. Some at SK Prime, some in Origin, or not Origin, but BCN rather. I think this team is very inconsistent. I think at their best, they really genuinely have some strong players. I think from the top side and from the AD carry, there's definitely powerhouses to go for. But this is also a team that had to reverse sweep in the finals. They were down 2-0, had to come back from that. And I think that the inconsistencies that we just in general see from these teams, you cannot afford these inconsistencies when you go against Illumina, when you go against Fnatic, and especially not when you go against Big, because you will just not have anything to do in this game if you're not in your prime from the get-go.
Okay. I was go ahead, Joseph.
What, like, when I did a lot of preparation for EU Masters, looking into those teams, especially like the teams that German like Primeleague teams play against. So I know like because I have watched the play-ins as well, and there was like the upset from eSuba versus Vitality B, where I was like, oh, this could happen, because I want to stylistically compare the teams that are playing against, and I feel like Zero Tenacity has a problem with like laning according to jungle pathing and like vice versa. So if they don't fix that, like I can see them getting bodied like 2v2 in lane. I can see them getting bodied in like mid lane. And like obviously like when your laners can not get priority, then it's gonna be hard for you as a jungler. So lane diff is jungle diff, and I think that's what is about to happen. I don't think like their jungler is so much worse than Akabane, or like Akabane is so much better than him. I think they're both fine. It's just like I feel like their jungler will not get a chance to play the game or like play games because of the laners, and that's like it's for them. It's like it's good that they have a showing, and I feel like it's especially cool that we have this format that they get to prove themselves. It's like if they perform well here, then there's a ticket to like better ERLs or like better teams, which is something why it's quite interesting. There, you mentioned a sub hub, and for those people who do not know this, which is also going into like Primeleague teams, the analyst of sub hub is now the analyst of Penta, and I think that could like I know this guy. I have talked to him. He does a very good job, and just a little spoiler, I think that is also the reason why I think Penta could go so far, because Subhub, the team like was not expected to make it out of groups, and they made it out of groups in my opinion. And I think, that's just like I'll take back to the group that we are talking about now.
Think it's very interesting that you also highlight the staff actually maybe making it to better teams or bigger ERLs just because of how good they do it in the lower ERLs. And for Zero Tenacity, of course, I was trying to hype them up a little bit because you have that weird champion.
Oh no, we don't want that here.
But I almost forgot that Fnatic Rising also is maybe an underdog in this group. So I understand that Goldberg is about to gut Zero Tenacity. Like, okay, you're gonna be lost, and the rest of the teams are gonna fight for that second spot. And one of those teams is Illuminar, and this roster, it's like it was unexpected. I follow most of the ERLs pretty closely, and for Ultra League as well. Illuminar was this big organization in the beginning of our competitive scene. If we talk about just EU Masters in general, they were the first one to really put the Polish scene on the map, along with Gieris Miladem team. I think you pronounced it very badly, but that became Rocket when they made ULCS. And they finally make it back to the international stage in spring, and then they bum out of groups, sadly. They see their entire roster leave. The hopes are pretty low, and then suddenly, as you heard MAGVAYER say, in playoffs, they have this young Polish roster, basically, or untested Polish roster, rather. They just start screaming their lungs out, apparently, from the top lane. They start shot calling, and they push the first seed of Ultraliga to 3-2. How are they as a contender for second spot? Because I think we put Fnatic Rising contending second spot. Is Illuminar, I think when we have BLACKGATOR, we're probably putting Illuminar there as well. But do they have a lead? Are they ahead of Fnatic, or do we just put them on the same pedestal? Because it's really hard for me to call this team just on names, because you have a lot of people that you just don't know playing there. It's their first EU Masters for a lot of these names.
So for me, it's like quite interesting because there's like a lot of people might not know this, but the head coach of Illumina, Wolf, is someone that I really respect, especially like in 2019 when I had like weird drafts. He was one of the guys who was actually scrimming us or like letting us play these drafts. And the other thing is that Wolf and D-Lord actually know each other. And I think this is like, it's like storyline building. And I feel like it's, for me, when I saw like Wolf joining that team, it was like, okay, I know this guy can do a lot. It's just a question, how much can he do? And it seems to me that he managed those players who were like not really known into something, into a good unit of players. And I'm not sure, like for my, it's not like they have super outstanding players. It's just like, for me, it feels like they're like a cohesive unit. And like when I think about Fnatic, I feel like they have a role play in mid. and they like he does his role well, but he's like exploitable in the laning phase. And I feel like Bean is like the only thing that I'm scared is how strong can Bean be, and how like if he gets Aphelios, I feel like he can 1v9 every game. And so I would say I think Fnatic Rising has a bit more firepower, but I feel like they should not take Illumina lightly, because they can be upset very quickly.
Also, just talk quickly about Illumina. I mean, they have some insanely new good players coming in. I think Eschig in the mid lane, and then Samu like down in that bottom. I mean, Samu is 17 years old. He is one of the newer talent, and already at this European Masters, the highest nationality we have is coming from Poland. So while the top level, maybe not a stat ago roster that won it all, I still genuinely feel like from a talent producing factory, and as MAGVAYER mentioned himself, they still have the forge going. They have a lot of talent to represent.
And it's funny because X-Charm, the support, he came to the Benelux. He didn't have the best season there, but you could clearly see he was trying to carry everything. Went back to Poland. They finished 5th in regular season and then made that playoff run. And it's like I coined it last season. Like Poland kind of feels like what Korea was for the professional scene internationally back in the day, where it's like you have all these amazing players just waiting to prove themselves, and they just move all around every ERL until you have teams like Mrs. Ramiro, where you have literally 4 Polish players on and 1 German in the mid lane, and they're actually really good. So I'm always scared of like these new names from Poland, where you're like, I don't know how good they're going to be, because 9 times out of 10 they're going to be at least good enough to challenge you in lane. And I think Illuminar, I don't know, I put them above Fnatic just because I want this full Polish roster that seems to like play the game smart instead of have the carry potential like pound for pound in every lane. I would love to see them get out. At the same time, I think people like being like Maxi, like Pride in the top lane can maybe make the difference on experience. And on that note, I want to look at big, because if we're talking about experience, we're talking about EU Masters, if we're talking about a big organization, literally from the German or the dog scene rather, because it's Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. You have to talk about big. They kind of got good at, but they picked up the support Seas from Penta, I think, when they did their run to get into Primeleague. You have Reeker in the mid lane, who the clips just speak for themselves. Like, how strong is big BLACKGATOR? Because they looked so strong in playoffs, and it looks like no one in the Primeleague come playoffs came close.
I feel like the biggest enemy is big themselves.
Okay.
I feel like if they're going into games, and like if they're going into, like, they, as you mentioned, they had like issues 0-4 last week, including a tiebreaker match, didn't look good. Everyone's like, okay, what is happening? Like, this is to be supposed our best team. What's going on? And then playoffs came, and like the first series was a best of 3. Best of 3 is always different because anything can happen. And then like the best of 5s came, and they just like looked unstoppable, and they ramped up. And I feel like if they continue what they did, and if they like really have a good meta read, I feel like this could be the team that wins EU Masters again for the DACH region. And I think like everyone should be scared and afraid of them. And hopefully they like, I want to see the enemy teams preparing strategies against big, and I want to see how they actually manage to challenge big.
Okay. So what are the main differences really from this time around with big? Because we kind of said the same thing about big coming in last time around. You know, Rika, SLT, Karim coming up and playing for that top side of the map with what people said was one of the stronger top sides of the European Masters as well. What's the difference now for this big roster?
I think like they got a slightly downgrade in jungle, but I got, in my opinion, SLT is a very good player. But SLT has had problems. I think that's also the reason why he like got put into the Vitality B lineup, because he had problems playing like weak side. And I feel like Melonic, he has played 17 unique champions. That's like Quinn, Cannon, Mundo, like whatever you want. Jace, like this guy's like, we meme about Jace 2-trick, like Camille Jace 2-trick, but in reality he's not a 2-trick. Like he has like a champion ocean. And I feel like he plays all the champions to a level that are like really, really like usable. And you can put him on Jay's weak side and he will perform. You can put him like down in lane, but he will perform. And I feel like that's the biggest difference, that they are like more versatile in styles. And like I feel like the bot lane has stepped up a lot because they had to like take on responsibilities, like what Kareem left, like the void that had to be filled. Like they took it over, and I think this big iteration is better than like the last iteration, even though it might not seem that way. This is just like, for me, I feel like Melonic is like, I'm not sure if I want to say underrated, but it feels to me that he doesn't get the attention that he should get, because like your top lane champion pool can like legit change the way the whole game's played. Because if you like can bring the GP in, if you can bring the Jason, or like if you are not able to play these champions, then your team's like kind of locked in the way of playing.
Yeah. And I wanna reiterate on what you said. You said two teams could maybe take it all, could win it. So we have Big. Who's the second team, and who's the other team that can make a deep run but can't really take the trophy, or will have a harder time trying to take the trophy?
I think Mouse could win it.
Okay.
I think Mouse could win it because like people will flame me for this. People will say, "Oh my god, you're delusional." I feel like Mouse, like going into like, if you heard like interviews from the regular season, they had like this mushroom water thing, which is I don't know what happened there. But I feel like they didn't like really try their best. Like they didn't went 100% serious. And then like the last week came, the Super Week, and they managed to get the EU Master spot because of like the player format. And then when they lost to Big, I feel like they realized, oh, we cannot go like this. Like we have to change stuff and we have to be better. And like the way that they came in Plains was very, very different. And I feel like the playing experience and that will carry them over. And I feel like if they get the momentum, they have a good chance to upset, especially like because like their jungle support synergy, especially like Chameleos, is like really, really active on the map, and he's like initiating and like helping a Pride Soccer play that style that they want to play. And Chocolate, I don't think I need to talk about him. He is a good player and he like can play almost everything.
Yeah.
And the thing that like is so good to see, Noah mentioned it, is like get a champion pool. This guy, he will play anything. So like I think if you're not prepared playing into Karthus, it changes the way that like you do things. And like if you're not experienced playing into like weak side bots, like they will have more experience playing with like Seraphine or other types of champions in bot lane than the enemy team will have playing against it. So if they are able to play these styles and like different styles, and the enemy team is not like hardcore punishing them for that, then I feel like it could get out of control very, very quickly.
Yeah. I like we coined them the coin flip team basically because of how they like to play carry jungle, and it doesn't always work. But I can see you putting up some good points here, where maybe they needed that body check from Big in playoffs, and they needed that run through Plains. A closing thought in general. Even though the Dark region has always made it far, they only won EU Masters once. Is this finally the year? We've been asking that a lot of these casters. We've been asking Noah as well. But is this finally the year where the Primeleague steps up again and they take it all? Because you just coined two front runners, but is it actually going to happen?
I think yes. I feel like back in, I think it was 2019 when Big won the EU Masters, I feel like the region itself was really weak. And since the introduction of the Primeleague, I think the level of players have like continuously gone up. The level of infrastructure that teams provide has gone up, and I feel like Big is like one of the tournament favorites. I would say like Misfits Premier, maybe Carmine Corp, but I feel like Carmine Corp is struggling. I'm not sure. Like when I checked last time, they played like a series today versus Vitality and was 2-0 for Vitality already. So that is not like, I'm not sure what's happening there. And yeah, I feel like Penta is a question mark for me because they lost 3-0 in the finals, and that has been their first series. But since it's a best of one format and look like double round robin, they could like legit make it through the groups, especially like because best of ones, anything can happen. And especially in the first time, you saw it with Vitality B. The first time they play, they lost against Isuba, and then like the group one was already tough. And if that happens to the other teams in the group, then Penta can make it out for sure. And 3 good teams. Hopefully this is the time.
Yeah, it's hopefully the time. I think we've heard a lot of casters or guests today say that it's hopefully the time again, and that's the beautiful thing about EU Masters. Like, there hasn't been a back-to-back winner, so for LFL to pull it off, it would actually be a first time. I want to thank you, BLACKGATOR, for the insights. I love the fact that you also hinted to actual coaching staff moves and actual you have that perspective as a coach or as someone that used to coach, that they have a big impact as well. And we just want to thank you for representing Primeleague, and maybe we'll put Big a bit higher in our list.
If it's not Big, I can't say more.
Okay. Thank you so much, and we will catch each other later.
Yeah, see you. Bye.
See ya. Okay, so we went a bit over time because I think it's pretty clear that a lot of people
I blame you.
Yeah, it's my bad. It's my bad. It's just so hard to interrupt people that are so passionately defending their ERL. You don't want to cut them short either. In general, I want to quickly go over this. I think there are clear favorites for every group. Do we change our Topdogs, underdog, our contenders, and our dark horse? Like, has anyone convinced us? Like, okay, we need to swap something out here.
I think that I am still very confident about my own, what I had. I think that maybe you put any Ultra League representant, whatever it is, as a dark horse. Thank you very much. Yeah. I speak English. As a dark horse instead, just because they are a region that obviously haven't done too well in the past spring. And now it does seem like MAGVAYER was talking about them changing up their style a little bit and not the same slow complete style. So maybe an Ultra Liga team as a dark horse, but I'm very, very happy about what we started out with.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an argument for that. I think also Big is a team I'm really looking at. If we were to take 2 dark horses, maybe we could go Big and effectively maybe put PDW there, because I don't think Illuminar should be the favorite if we've listened closely to what MAGVAYER was saying. And I think it's just like, I don't think it's just us. I think it's really stacked. I think it's really hard to call. And if you've heard every single analyst here, I think they all just hope that their team can make it big, but they also believe it to some sort or to some fashion. Do you have any closing thoughts, anything you want to round the podcast out with after a pretty hefty rundown of every group?
No.
No. So everything has been said and done. That was it for our first podcast. I know this was the first time for us as a channel, first time for you as viewers probably. I'm still in love with the guest lineup we had. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, Goldberg, to make this happen along with me, and Bastian, who is behind the buttons, our amazing producer Stolky, for all the overlays, all the actual scenes. And I hope to do this again after EU Masters coming into next year. But for now, this has been it for the EUniverse, and thank you so much for watching.